Hey, everybody, glad to be with you again. And today's topic is how to dramatically improve your coaching skills. Seems like another important topic, David.
Well, yeah, I thought we would go in a little bit of a different angle, I guess, today. And a lot
Yeah.
of times we talk about marketing things, we talk about mindset things. This is a little bit more of just a core skill,
Yeah.
because so many people want to go into coaching and they see how amazing it is and how valuable it is and important. And they think, well, that's something that could be great. But a lot of people aren't great coaches. It's
Right.
just, and it's not because you don't know things. It's not because you don't have good experiences or good knowledge or a good understanding of things.
Hmm.
It's just there is an actual skill to being a coach.
Yeah.
It's not something that it, it's not what a lot of people even think it is.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think there's a misunderstanding. And it was one of those things when I started my business, almost a decade ago now, as a coach, I realized through my training at the time that I'd actually been coaching people for 20 years prior. But I didn't frame it as that because it wasn't the world I was in, right? I'd been a pastor, I was, working in churches, but I was coaching volunteers, I was coaching kids as youth pastor, I was coaching a lot of people based on what we're going to talk about today, but I didn't put that label on it because it wasn't as I think it wasn't as prominent first of all back then as it is today. A lot of, now a lot of people see that coaching is such a possibility, for them to be able to do this. But you're right. I think there's a lot of confusion around it. And it was helpful for me to get some clarity when I first started that I think that we'll bring out today that really gave me a mindset of, well, I'll say this before we get into too many details. Somebody said coaching is 10% tactics and 90% who you are. And so it's this so basically coaching becomes an identity of how you operate, and I think that a lot of what we're going to talk about today will explain that.
Yeah, I agree. And the how is hugely important, is determining whether or not you're an okay coach or an amazing coach.
Right.
But
Yeah,
one
that
of the
last
things,
10%, that 10% tactical stuff does matter. I'm
right,
not trying
it
to say it
does,
doesn't.
right. But one of the things I really want to clarify before we go any further, because I think this is important, because I think too many times people get confused with what coaching really is.
Mm-hmm.
They think coaching is just, sharing your knowledge and expertise on and your experiences of life with someone else.
Right.
It's not really what coaching is.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to really make a differentiation between being a mentor
Mm-hmm.
and being a coach.
Yeah.
Okay. A mentor is somebody who, like, especially like if you are a person in your 40s and 50s and you've been working in an industry or a field for, an extended period of time now, and you have someone in their 20s just fresh out of college coming along,
Mm-hmm.
and they start working with you, beside you in your job, and you start explaining, okay, this is how we do that, this is how this works, this is how that, if you've ever been kind of like a manager of a new employee,
Yeah.
that's kind of mentoring. You're sitting there going, okay, this is how this works, this is where this goes, that's how that should be.
You're
And you start,
telling and directing, right?
right, exactly, you're sharing and mentoring them so that they can learn the skill.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing them how to do things, and you're sharing your experience, your wisdom, because you've been doing this for a while, and don't do it that way, because if you do it that way, there's going to be problems. So do it this way, and you just know that, hey, there are
Mm-hmm.
things that I can share with you. There's wisdom, there's knowledge, there's experience here that I can mentor you on, and
Mm-hmm.
do that. That's great. That is
Mm-hmm.
amazingly valuable, incredibly important. But that's not coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching is when you ask questions to unlock an individual's potential.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and now involved in that process will be some you sharing your knowledge and wisdom and expertise.
Yeah.
And from all your experiences that you have, that is included as part of it. But this is less about you just saying, okay, this is how you do this and this is how you do that. This is about getting into a person's story,
Mm-hmm.
finding out about them, asking them questions about their journey, about their beliefs, about their attitudes, about why things are going on the way they are. And going through this whole entire process of like understanding them better. And there's a core belief that a coach has, and that is, whereas a mentor looks at it and goes, I have the knowledge and the expertise, and I'm going to share that with you to help. The coach looks at it and says, you are the one that actually deep down inside knows the answer. Because coaching is less about instruction. Like, okay, when you're mentoring somebody, you're instructing somebody in like how to do things.
Right.
Like, go here, do this, do that, do that. It's like step by step. Coaching is more about, okay, I may not know the answer that you're looking for. I actually may not know it, but I believe that you do know it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because you're struggling with a decision you're supposed to make in your life. You're struggling with something you're supposed to do. And I ultimately believe that you do know the answer of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But rather than me just sitting here telling you, hey, go do that, I'm going to sit here and keep asking you questions until we come to that point where you know what you're supposed to do.
Well, and I think, and I think this is really an important point that you're bringing up here, because two things. One is when it comes, like when I come up with that answer, right, as a coaching client, I'm going to own that so much differently than if you just said, go do that. Right. The other side of it is, I think this is very freeing from the coach side of things, in the fact that you don't have to know all the answers. And that was huge for me, especially when I made my shift from being a full-time pastor to coaching executives and business leaders. For me, there was a lot of imposter syndrome that I dealt with. Was who am I, right? I haven't been in their world. I haven't done their job in their industry or whatever. And I actually realized along the way, it took me a while, but I realized along the way, my ignorance of their industry and everything is actually an advantage, because I'm forced to ask more questions. I'm forced to draw that out from them. And I've learned a ton about different industries because of coaching leaders in different industries. But I by no means would say I'm an expert in finance. I'm an expert in, this blue collar industry. I'm an expert in whatever, they do, because that's not the world I'm in every day. But asking those questions to draw it out of them, to your point, most people, the reality is most of us know, like you said, deep down inside what we ought to do, whether it be about life or business topics. But we need somebody to basically, truly, it's like mining for gold and just drawing that out of us.
Right. And as you do that, you're going to start talking to them, and you're going to start asking them about their story. So tell me what's going on. You're like, where are you at? What's going on in your life? And because there's a reason there's a reason they're coming to talk to you. There's a reason they hired you. There's a reason they want to have this conversation, because there's something going on that they're trying to work through. So you start asking questions, you start listening to their story. And as you do that, you're going to hear some stuff. Even like you said, you don't know the specifics or the details of things maybe as well as they do, but you're going to hear some attitudes. You're going to hear some beliefs. You're going to hear some statements being made. And you're going to go, oh boy, like I can see why things aren't going well with that kind of an attitude. Like,
right.
And it's going to start welling up things, and you're almost going to get frustrated because you just want to like bang, knock them in the head and go, stop.
Right, you want to fix it for them, right?
Right. You want to fix it for them, and you get frustrated, right? Because you're looking at it, just stop. Stop doing that, because you can see clearly really quickly that attitude is just poisoning you. Stop it. But here's the problem, is that is not going to help your client. That's going to make it worse. They're going to get mad. They're going to get upset, and you're not going to get a solution. So the very first thing you got to do in this process is learn how to manage your emotions.
Yeah.
Because the client can start going down rabbit trails. They can start, like they can just drive the car into the ditch.
Yeah.
And you're going, oh my word. Like what just happened here? You just drove this, we were making progress. We're going now we're back in depression mode over here, or now we're back in, negative attitude mode again. And so the client may say things that offend you. They may make some statements that you are sitting there going, wow, that really violates my moral beliefs. That really violates my ethics. I can't believe you said you're for that. That's really awful. But the thing is that you're never going to help that person if you start making it about you.
Right.
You're never gonna, if you're gonna sit and go, well, I'm offended now. I'm upset because of one of the things you just said. Okay. If you do that, you'll never be able to help them. And you'll never be able to turn them around and get them pointed in a better direction.
Mhm.
And so one of the primary things you first have to position yourself going into these calls, going into these situations, is you have to go, I have to manage my own emotions.
Yeah.
I cannot sit here and let their statements or their story or their crappy attitudes or,
Mhm.
really outlandish statements that they may make rattle me. I
Well,
cannot.
and to that point, I think you have to be careful. Like, I know for me, this is one of my where I had to manage my own emotions in this. It's not so much on the being offended side, it's wanting more for them than they want for themselves.
Right.
And when I see potential in somebody, but they don't see it in themselves, or they're not willing to put forth the effort to do what I think they can do, that's where I have to really check myself and go, once again, Chris, you can't own this for them. You just have to help them, and be their partner to get there,
Right.
as much as possible. But even then, some people, like David, I had a one session with one woman one time about starting a new business, and literally I got done walking her through a process and like a planning process, and I was kind of doing some mentoring side of it with her, and then she's like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm like, well, I literally said, I was like, I don't really care if you like it. It's what you have to do. But I realized at that point, she's not a coachable person that I would want to coach and work with long term, because, she wasn't open to keeping that conversation. And I think that sometimes comes up, and I'm like, well, somebody may get through to her, but I'm not going to be the one.
Right. So yes, and that's very important. And when you hit those points, is like that's when you know that you've hit a wall.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that you got to do is you got to listen for those triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, like I said, rather than worry about some of the other stuff, you got to listen for triggers, because what you're trying to find is, where are they going off the rails?
Yeah.
Where are they going wrong? Where are they going off the path? Because something is happening here to causing them to go in a bad direction. So I have to be listening for statements that are made, their attitudes that I'm sensing, different beliefs that are coming through the comments that they're making, and say, okay, that's a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most powerful things that you do in all this is you use the question, why? Now, when I say the most powerful question you can use in coaching is why, it has to be a little more nuanced than just why. Why? Why?
You got a 2-year-old, right?
Right. Yeah. You can't be the 2-year-old version. You actually have to be a little more nuanced than that. You have to be able to sit here and go, that's interesting. Why do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, tell me more about that. Why do you think that happened? And start using that, because a lot of times I've learned sometimes. So what we're trying to do is we have to understand that everything we do has a reason behind it.
Yeah.
It's like I've used this example in the past of like a marketing campaign where, they're selling drills, and, somebody wants to buy a drill. Great. Well, what do you sell? How do you market a drill? Well, it creates a hole. Well, true. It will create a hole. There's no question. It could put in screws, okay, true. All of those are very factual. But really, when you get to the why does a man want to buy a drill? Well, he wants to buy a drill because he's got a project he wants to do with his son.
Mm-hmm.
But why does he want to do this project with his son? Well, he wants to do his project with his son because he wants to create a memory with his son.
Mm-hmm.
So if your marketing now goes towards father-son memories that can be created because you have this tool, you are now able to create something together and have this memory of building this together and have this, connection point with your son. Now you're getting to the real reason behind it. And this is what happens in each one of us. We may say, well, I don't like so-and-so, or I don't like doing that. Like you're a person, like, I don't want to follow that idea. I don't want to do those things to market my business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is that? Why? I don't like it. Okay. Well, what about it don't you like?
Yeah.
And sometimes it can literally take 5, 6, 7 rounds of asking that type of question until you keep digging to get to that core belief that's sitting underneath there. Because look, you don't like or dislike something for no reason.
Yeah.
I just don't wake up one day and go, I don't like Chris. Well, I don't know. I just don't like him. Well, no. I mean, if that happens, there's a reason.
Right. Something has happened. Yeah.
Something has happened. There's something going on that causes that. I don't walk up to people just randomly and go, you over there, person I've never met before. I don't like you. Like, no, that's not, there's something that occurred.
Right.
And until you can get to the core reason behind it, until you can get to the underlying reason, you can't make that change.
Yeah.
You cannot help them make the change. And because our beliefs are shaping our attitudes, and our attitudes are going to determine our actions. Mm-hmm. So if I believe that Chris is a good person, then my attitude towards Chris is going to be positive. And then if my attitude towards Chris is positive, Chris and I are likely to get along, and I will be friendly towards Chris, and I will treat Chris with respect, and I will be nice to Chris because of the underlying things that go ahead of my actions. Mm-hmm. My beliefs and my attitudes are ahead of my actions. They go
it's an iceberg principle, right? The top, right. What you see above is the actions, right. But everything else is below.
So if you want to change someone's behavior, you want to help them change their behavior, you have to get to the false belief that's behind it. And some people get a little offended when I say stuff like that. Like, well, how do you know what they believe is wrong? How do you know what they believe is untrue or is false? And then I can answer, are they getting the result that they want?
Yeah.
No. Then something they believe is false. Mm-hmm. Because if they were believing the right things, if they were believing what is true, then they would be taking the right action steps, they'd be doing the right things, and they would be getting the result that they desire.
Yeah.
But because they're not, all I have to do is to know that someone has a false belief. All I got to know is, are you getting the result? Mm-hmm. If I ask you a question and say, okay, are you getting this result? And you tell me no, I immediately know there's something inside of you. There's a belief inside of you that's wrong. Mm-hmm. I know somewhere in there, I don't know what it is yet.
Right.
I don't have that answer yet. I don't know where it is, but I know somewhere inside of you, you believe something about yourself, about some other people, about your circumstances. You believe something that's wrong. And that's why when we do a marketing presentation, here's an example of how this plays out in marketing, because we are marketing and business building podcast. We might as well talk about that a little bit. People go and like, well, I don't like to sell. Well, why don't you like to sell? Well, because it's sleazy. It's unethical. Really? Do you enjoy buying things? Well, yeah. Okay. So when someone sells you something that you bought and you feel really excited that you bought that thing, did you feel that was sleazy? No. Okay, so then you start asking them more questions.
Yeah.
And, every time, like when we do a marketing presentation, the thing when you do a marketing presentation, you market it, you put out a presentation, say, sign up to hear our workshop or whatever it is. And it's like, hey, we're going to, teach you about how to do this. But the marketing presentation, we don't really want to ever go into the tactics, because I can teach you tactically how to do something, but if your underlying core belief is still wrong, it will make no difference in your life whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Because you still won't do it.
Yeah.
I can teach you how to swim. I can teach you all the mechanics of how to swim, but if you're terrified of the water, it ain't going to matter.
Yeah.
Because you won't get in. And so the same thing is when we do a marketing presentation, the purpose of the marketing presentation is to go after someone's inappropriate core beliefs. If you can go after their inappropriate core beliefs and teach them that what they believe about this is wrong, the reason they believe that and it's wrong is the reason they're not getting the result. They will have an epiphany moment. They will have that moment where they go, oh my word, that's why. And people were, I know I need to teach more. I need to give tactical stuff. No, you don't. Because they're not ready for tactical. Mm-hmm. They're not ready for the how. They still don't understand the why. Mm-hmm. But when you help them unlock it, when they have that epiphany moment where they realize, oh man, that's where I'm going wrong. Because I believe that that's not possible and I have to do it this way. I've been doing it the wrong way the whole time because my beliefs are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I see that this is the way you have to do it, oh my goodness. Now, how do I do it? Well, let me show you. In our business, we help people do X, Y, and Z. Oh, so I can work with you to do that? Yes. How do I sign up?
Mm-hmm.
Now it all of a sudden works. But the only reason you're doing the marketing presentation is you have to change those beliefs.
Well, I think what you're bringing up, though, is so important because this whole topic of, I mean, really coaching is you're talking about from a marketing campaign, even, our presentation, coaching is applicable in all areas of life, right? Because what you're saying is the general idea is people want results, whether it be in business, relationships, finances, health, whatever. But to your point, you got to get beneath that surface and figure out what are the obstacles, what are those roadblocks, what are those things that are holding them back? Because I know you experience this. I've experienced, like, there's so many. I believe everybody has potential for greatness. Honestly, David, I really do.
I agree.
I just think that, to your point, if our upbringing influences our thinking of what I believe is possible for me or people like me or people that live where I live or whatever it may be, I had to, and I still fight this at times, even, like, because of the world I came from out of a ministry background as a pastor, it's been a journey to break a lot of beliefs about I can do business, right? I can be a business person. I can be a successful coach and speaker and trainer that I do. And yet it's amazing how many times those false beliefs, especially when you're not getting the results that you want, especially early on or consistently or whatever the case may be, can hijack your attitude, but also your willingness, your effort to persevere. And I think a lot of people, when we're talking about coaching people in particular, the biggest, like you said, they say what's the hardest part of, or the most difficult, ground to work is that 6 inches between our ears.
Agreed. But once you change that, once you've turned somebody around and gotten them to see, whoa, that's wrong, they now own that.
Right.
This isn't that I convinced them.
Yeah.
It's now they are owning the fact that, oh, crud, that's wrong. Oh, no, that is not right. And all of a sudden you're seeing life. Well, if that's not right, what is right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you can build the truth into them.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you do that? The best example I've ever heard about how to change someone's belief, that if they have an incorrect belief about something, that incorrect belief is causing them not to be able to have the success that they want in their life. If that's the roadblock right there. As long as you believe that, you're never going to do what you need to do to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you believe that thing, that's the wall. And you're always going to keep running into a wall. You're never going to get past it. So the way to overcome it is, and the best way that I've ever heard describe it is to understand the beliefs are like tabletops. Okay. And when you think about a tabletop, what does a tabletop have underneath it? They have legs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how the tabletop stays up. It has legs underneath it to support it. So you have a tabletop, that is your belief. I believe this. And why do you believe that? Well, and because of this, because of this, because of this. And the reasons why you believe that to be true are all the legs. Mm. Those are all the legs that are supporting the belief. Well, so-and-so is a bad person. Why? Well, because of this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. Okay, those are the legs that are underneath that belief supporting it. So the way for me to be, and when I look at that and I go, well, that belief is not true, mm-hmm. or at the very least, that belief is not serving you, it's hurting you. The only way for me to change that belief is not for me to come up to you and say, Chris, you're wrong. You need to change that belief. Yeah. Because what are you going to do? You're going to resist me.
Right. Just push back.
You're just going, I don't want to. No, you're wrong. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Okay, well, guess what? Now we're no longer making progress as a coach. we're no longer getting there. The only way I could do it is for them to see that the belief is wrong. And how do we do that? We have to create doubt in the evidence that's supporting the belief. All of their reasons. So that's why, like, well, because of this and this. Is that really true? Why do you believe that's true? And cause doubt. So if all of a sudden, well, I guess maybe that wasn't true. Boop, there goes one of the legs under the table. You've knocked it out. Okay, well, what about that? Why are you sure that's true? What about that? What if it was this instead of that? I just had somebody this week who really helped me, got on a call with me and really helped me. And I had a set of beliefs about something that happening in my life that was happening that had me very frustrated and discouraged. And they just sat there and said, are you sure it's not this instead of that? Because I think they might have been saying it this way instead of that way. And all of a sudden, I have doubt about whether or not the way I saw and viewed the situation is correct.
Right.
Maybe I was interpreting it wrong. Maybe I was misunderstanding their intention for when they posted that thing and said that thing. Okay, well, maybe they didn't mean it that way. Maybe they meant it this way instead. Well, now this doubt has knocked that leg out from under the table. And if I can knock enough legs out, if I can create enough doubt to knock enough legs out from underneath that tabletop, that belief, then what? No tabletop stays suspended in the air without legs, right? It'll fall to the ground. Well, what happens when the tabletop falls to the ground? It has to get replaced with a different tabletop. And when, like, for example, in my case, where I was believing, like, this person said this, and I think this is what they meant, and this is what they were saying. Like, no, what if they actually meant this? And suddenly, like, okay, well, all of a sudden now I'm building a new belief with a new set of legs coming up underneath it.
Yeah. And those legs are the right legs, right?
Right. And I'm believing a different story.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm realizing, maybe what I thought wasn't true. Maybe it was this instead. And all of a sudden I'm considering evidence that's backing up this new idea. And essentially what I'm doing is putting legs under the tabletop.
Well, doesn't it? I mean, as you're saying this, I'm thinking how it's this idea, right, that our perception is our reality. Doesn't mean it's true. Right. Doesn't mean it's the truth, but it's our reality at any given moment. So what you're saying is that tabletop with false beliefs, bad beliefs, disempowering beliefs, that is the perception that I'm living by.
Right.
And therefore it's not serving me well. And that's the other thing is, you talk about, when you start asking the deeper questions to ask, are you getting the results? One of the best questions I heard early on too in my coaching journey was asking, how's this serving you? Is this serving you well, or is this hurting you? And I tell you what, that was not, I'm such a tactical person, David, that even as a coach, it made me really think about and pause on what are the types of questions I need to ask, because to your point, I can stay basically, I'll say very surface level at the tactical things, like, have you tried this, this, and this kind of questions of tactics, when even if they've tried those things, but to your point, they don't believe things properly underneath all that, then there's still a problem. The tactics aren't going to work because the beliefs are still undermining the tactics.
Right. And I think, you're raising just a very valid point in all this when you say, like, some of these things that we help our clients with aren't even necessarily moral things. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see things like, wow, that's a really messed up attitude you have. Like, that's really wrong. But other times it's very much just kind of in that neutral middle ground. But it's what you said. It's not serving you. That attitude, that belief is not serving you. And it's not that it's morally wrong or it's offensive. It's just this thing is taking you down and causing you problems. And because it's there, you're always stopping yourself and you're always getting stuck. So we need to help you get rid of that and replace it with a different belief, because this is not serving you at all.
Yeah.
You have this objective on what you want to achieve and where you want to go and where you want to be. But the attitude and the beliefs that you have are just, you're going to always self-sabotage every time. When you get to a certain point, boom, there you go down again. And so we have to help them get there, and we have to help replace them with something that's true. Or at the very least, if it's not a true falsehood situation, if it's not a moral situation, we have to help them replace it with something that's going to serve them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're trying to get to an outcome and they have a belief that's always going to self-sabotage them, we have to help them replace it with an empowering belief that's going to allow them to continue moving forward. And when we do that, and when we aren't just telling them, no, this is what you need to believe instead, but we help them understand it and see it for themselves, they will then own that new belief, support it with new evidence, make that tabletop strong, and start moving forward. Now, the last thing I want to say about all this is that as we work with people and as we go through people, it can be easy to get on rabbit trails on some of these things. And like, because you're seeing, well, man, that's going to screw up that area of your life. And that's going to screw up this. Like, that's going to screw up your marriage. That's going to screw up your relationship with your kids. That's going to screw up your health. Okay, why are we here?
Yeah.
Let's keep in mind, why did we get on the call with this client?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they come to us? What was the problem that they brought to us? In other words, what is the outcome that we're trying to drive to?
Yeah.
Because when we deal with people, we deal with complex creatures. and well, we're none of us are a straight line.
Yeah.
All of us have complexity to us. We all have layers. We all have parts of us that are like, well, that part's good, but this part's not so good. And then we have these layers and this, and there's so many pieces to it. And we can get like too like distracted on some of those things. We need to stay on the objective. We need to know the client came to me for help with this.
Yeah.
And I see these other things as I start asking all these questions and they start telling me their story and they start sharing. I'm going to start seeing, well, we got that over there. We got this over here. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You know, and all these little light bulbs are going to be popping off on your head going, uh-oh. I've seen problems all over the place. Well, that may be true because like I said, as human beings, we have issues on many levels. All of us do. Mm-hmm. There's none of us that are immune for that. But what we have to stay focused on is, okay, why am I here? Why did the client bring me in? What's the outcome? And we always got to keep our focus on moving the client to that outcome.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we can see things that are a problem, they're going to be an issue, and we're going to try and help. We're like, well, that should be solved. And maybe the client doesn't even want that solved. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's not where they want to even go or get help from. Maybe they know it's a problem, but at this point, they don't even want help solving it.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I know I should lose some weight, but I don't want to hear about it.
Right.
You know, or maybe, yeah, I know I should exercise. I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
I want to fix my business. I don't care about that right now.
Right. Exactly. And I'm like, unless they're willing to go there.
Yeah.
Even if it is obvious that there are things that need to be improved, you're just going to create tension.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes on that objective. Keep your guys focused on the outcome and always be encouraging, always be respectful, always be inspiring confidence in them, and always focus on their talent and their potential.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing you have to remember as a coach, even though we're going to meet some people that are very messed up, because that's life. We're going to run into people sometimes that, boy, they don't just have one problem. They have like a lot.
Right.
Like there's a lot of things that they need help with. But by focusing on, oh my word, you're just a really messed up person, which they may be, you know, being honest, they may be very messed up, but inside of them is still a person that has potential.
Right.
Inside of them is a person who still has the ability to be something amazing. And we need to call that out.
Yeah.
We need to call out their talent, call out their potential, call out the great things that are sitting there inside of them that may be covered over by all the crappy attitudes and bad beliefs and all those things. We need to call out the good things so that they rise to the top and the other things settle down to the bottom. Because when that person shows up, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, and I think about this from the standpoint of, you know, there's many people, most may be a stretch, but it could be reality, don't have a lot of cheerleaders in their corner.
Right.
You know, we maybe it's been, you know, you've grown up in a family that has been very negative, or, you know, questioning your intentions or questioning your actions, or, you know, why do you think you're good enough to do this or that or the other, right? Like, and if you've come up in an environment like that, whether it's a family or even just a professional environment, where there's so much doubt as a coach, we can become truly that biggest cheerleader that they may have never had before or they need at this moment. And I always think about that too of, you know, I want to be your partner for your success as a coach, right? I want to help you, whether it's overcome obstacles of the thinking, the beliefs that you've highlighted a lot today, or whether it's tactical things that you haven't thought about. For me, David, and there's a lot of different coaching frameworks, I'll say, or models out there. For me, I kind of came up with a 3-part process that helped me in my conversations as a coach. I just call it clarify, prioritize, and act. So first, clarify to your point. What's the focus? Why are we here today? Right? Why are we on this call today, or in this meeting? Then we define whether that's a big dream or that's a short-term goal. Something I just need to accomplish, whatever that may be. Then it's okay. Let's prioritize what needs to get done. What do we need to do in order to accomplish that? And then the act part is, okay, when are you going to do these things by? It's starting to calendarize, I'm gonna take action on these 3 things in the next week, and then we'll touch base again or whatever it may be. But for me, I think as a coach, we need to have, some form of a framework that we walk people through that keeps us on track, because you're right. It's easy for all of us to get off track in a conversation because there are so many things that could come up. And the other thing I want to highlight too, and I actually was somebody, a father, I'll say, a businessman I know, asked me after he read my book, my first book on life coaching topics. He was like, "Hey, my son is kind of lost right now. He's struggling with where he wants to go in life." And he's like, would you be able to maybe coach him? Would this be something you'd be interested in doing? And I said, well, first, is this what you want for him, or is this what he wants for him? I said, because I've had clients in the past where, parents wanted something for their kid. They hired me, and then I started meeting with their son. And then it was like, he didn't have the same desire to, have success or move forward the way they were wanting for him. And I said, so I'm willing to meet with your son if your son really wants this. But if it's just you, then the answer is I'm not going to waste anybody's time. Right. So I think a lot of it comes down to what is that desire, right? A lot of people want different results, but do they really want to do the harder, deeper workout, as some call it, to get those results? And I think we need to clarify that on the front end with clients too. So, because we know as coaches, we're going to go beneath the surface, but they may they may just want a quick fix.
Right. Well, and some people don't want to go deep.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't want to just the answers are not on the surface level. They're a few layers down, and some people don't want to go a few layers down. And as a result, they will never open up the door, and you can never help them unlock the answers. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you know what? That's why we can help those who are willing to be helped.
Yeah.
But the best coaches are the ones that don't make it about themselves.
Right.
They're the ones that are always focused on the client. They're always like, I believe in you. I see good things in you. I see great things in you. And all I'm trying to do is help draw those out of you. Mm-hmm. And I want the best for you. I want to inspire confidence and belief in you and make you the best version of you that you can be. Mm-hmm. And to help them. And when you do that and your focus is always on the client and never on what you want to get out of the call, because I've seen coaches like that. They get on calls. Well, what do I want to get out of it? Well, I want to get off in an hour. Like, okay, like that's maybe true, but
right.
But there comes a point where if that's all you're thinking about, you're not going to serve that client very well.
Right. And I think that goes to the why behind why do you want to coach, right? Like, is it just because it's in essence, a low bar to entry because it's a service-based business that you don't have to have a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Anybody can basically start a coaching business today for a low fee, if anything, even free. But there is high potential, earning potential, right? There is a lot of opportunity there, but if your motivation, and that's the other thing is, I think, people can sniff that out quickly too, that are you really here to help me, or are you just here to take my money? And, because, and there's a lot of, I'll say this, people call certain, like you said, get mentoring confused with coaching, or consulting is not coaching. counseling is not coaching for them. Like my whole thing, and the thing that really attracted me to coaching in the first place was the fact that, I have friends that are counselors and they're helping people heal from the past and deal with past issues, but it's backward, like they're thinking backward. They're trying to work on the past. To me, coaching is, okay, how do we look forward? How do we move forward? How do we keep going? The past does determine a lot of where we are today, right? What happened then got us here, but let's start here to move towards there, right? And move forward. And that's why I get excited about coaching people, whether that be in business or life in general, is when people truly want to move forward and not, but there are people that just want to keep, it's almost like this anchor of the past. They just want to, it's like their safety blanket. They're so comfortable with it, even if it's unhealthy and unhelpful, that they keep going back. It's like, nope, come on back here. That may have happened. And I'm not saying, I'm not here to argue with you about that, but let's start from today's our new starting point, right? And that's the cool part about coaching to me is every time you get on a call with somebody, today is the new starting point, no matter whether it's been a good, good run up till now or a challenging one. Right now, where we are today is your new starting point. So where are we going from here to the next, stop, so to speak?
Right. Yeah. Coaching is an amazing profession. Like once you kind of get the how you need to do it, because like I said, I think too many people when they become coaches, they just want to like, well, I'm just going to hop on and tell people what to do. Okay. I don't think you understand what a coach is. And I don't think you understand what a good coach is and how a good coach operates. So we wanted to kind of go and show people like, what does a good coach look like?
Well, and you and I have talked about this too, that even if you're a business coach, you're going to deal with a lot of life stuff, right? So I think coaching is it's more expansive than we like to say. Well, I want to, and from a marketing standpoint, you kind of have to define your lane, for sure. But just realize that when you're helping somebody with a business challenge or a leadership challenge or a health challenge, whatever your topic of coaching is, you're going to deal with life with people because we're holistic, right? Like what happens at home goes to work. What happens at work comes home. What's happening in my business is affecting my personal life. What's happening in my personal life is affecting my business. All these things. So I would just say, as we kind of wrap up today, is just be aware that you are dealing with human beings. And I think, David, a lot of what you said today is, with the beliefs and all the undercurrent stuff is we're dealing with human beings as coaches. And your topic may be business or leadership or health and specifically finances or something like that. But just know that the person is, there's so much more about them than that specific lane that they may not even know why they signed, they thought they signed up for coaching for this thing, but then they realized they needed help in a different way. And that happens a lot. So if you need help with this and building out a coaching business, we have a roadmap for that in the Design Launch Grow program, specifically to help you really define who are your prospects and what are their biggest challenges and what are their hopes and goals and dreams. And then how can you put together an offer and a framework to really guide them. And so check out designlaunchgrow.com. Get the coaching, get the training, get the community that would truly support you in building your own coaching business. And we would love to have you there. So check that out, and we will see you next time.